Teela. Arguably the most popular of the female Masters of the Universe characters. No offense, She-Ra, or Evelyn, or even Queen Marlena or Peekaboo. There's just something about Teela. Something really special about this character, and that's why she gets her own video. I'm Scott ToyGuru Neitlich, and I was the brand manager for Masters of the Universe Classics at Mattel for about 10 years, about 90% of the line. I'm a collector and a industry professional, and also a huge He-Man fan. And that's why I'm your host here on Spectre Creative as we do a deep dive into why Teela is such a special character, and why she can be a confusing character too, no matter how she's released, whether it's in her current Masters of the Universe Origins figure that's on shelf now, or the amazing, awesome Classics figure that was released, almost 10 years ago now, and is actually kind of hard to find because she only had one run. But, well, Teela's got something for everybody. I mean, whether you look at Teela and you want her to be a barbarian sword-wielding warrior or a spacefaring sword-wielding warrior, that's kind of the same thing but in space, I guess. Or heck, even a, snake monster. Teela's got something for everyone. She even changes her hairstyle based on how you like. I mean, some people have a thing for a redhead, and hey, gentlemen prefer blondes. What can I say? So, why does Teela keep changing her hairstyle? What's with the snake armor? Why doesn't she just appear in real life for all of us to have a true fantasy about? Why does she have to be a fictional character? Okay, well, that's not what this is about. This is about the plastic versions of her, and I guess the comic book versions of her too. And there's a lot of Teela figures out there. She's extremely popular. She shows up in pretty much every Masters of the Universe line. She's kind of a standard. You can't have a He-Man line without including Teela. And because Teela's kind of had, well, I guess sort of not so many looks, but so many colorings, I guess, over the years, that she tends to be a figure that gets done repeatedly over and over again in lines, in many colors, some wackier than others. All right, so what's the deal? Why is she so popular, and why is she so confusing? Well, it all starts with how she was created for the line. She was put into the line specifically to create drama. This was a boys' action figure line when it was launched in 1982, and most of the figures were male. Well, design argued to marketing that they needed a female character specifically to create drama, because they needed a damsel in distress, a love interest, whatever it was. Having a character of the opposite sex creates tension, creates drama for whether you're looking at it, as a female warrior, a damsel in distress, again, a love interest, for whatever role in your imagination, having a female takes the brand and it creates drama, it creates storytelling. And that's why the decision was made to include a female in the line and a female at launch, which is a pretty daring thing to do because female action figures don't sell as well. And there were other female characters, of course, in the line. I mean, the Sorceress was a huge part of the line, and she had a figure as well. She was the only other female besides Evelyn. And the Sorceress and Teela actually have a big connection. Sorceress wound up being Teela's mother, and this gave Teela one of actually the best story arcs in Filmation and in 2000X, with the idea that the Sorceress, I guess, hatched Teela in a nest? Okay, sure, why not? And, Teela eventually was going to grow up and replace the Sorceress as the new Sorceress. At least that's what the plan was for 2000X. But, they never got to that. There were other things in 2000X, like the fact that Fisto was going to be her actual father. But, again, 2000X had some crazy, cool stuff they never got to. All right, so is Teela green? Is she blue? Is she skin color? Is this an action figure of Teela, or is this the goddess? What the heck is up with all that? I'm so confused. I don't understand what's with the snake armor. What's with not the snake armor? Is Teela like 12 different characters? I don't get it. All right, so we're going to explain. There is a very specific reason Teela came with the snap-on snake armor, as well as the snake staff and the sword. And there's also a reason why she shows up as being blonde every once in a while and scantily clad. Well, scantily clad because, come on, it's a sci-fi barbarian fantasy. All women are scantily clad in metal bikinis, right? Well, it all goes back to how she was created. So when permission was given to add a female to the line, which was going to be a fully tooled figure, they couldn't, they couldn't use the male parts, obviously, because she was going to propel the storyline forward. Well, Mattel decided, if we're going to go bother to design a female, let's get the most we can out of this new buck, this new generic design. I mean generic female body, if you will. If we're gonna tool up a female body, we need to maximize it. So the idea was, Teela was a twofer. She was both going to be a warrior and a sorceress, or a goddess. The name was changed from goddess to sorceress because, much like the original name of the brand, Lords of Power, it was felt that they didn't want the brand to have religious connotation. So goddess is out, sorceress is in. And you can see here how that original drawing for what became the sorceress or goddess looks like colored, but it was colored years later. It was not always this color in the beginning. But once she was printed in the mini comics with green skin, that kind of became the thing. So this mini-comic, this is the very first mini-comic. This is the goddess character giving He-Man his armor. That was the role she played. She was like the magical protector, weapon supplier, kind of like Q, but for He-Man, and she would give him different armor that would give him different superpowers, like force fields and ice powers and fire powers, but they never got to those. They just got to the force field. And she also, protected the sword that could be split in two and would be used to open the gates of Castle Grayskull. So that was her as the goddess. That was a separate, unique character who, again, eventually they just changed the name to sorceress because religious connotation. But that original image of the goddess went and lived on, and actually we wound up doing a figure of that in Motu Classics, which the whole point of Classics was to do as many characters as possible, and it made sense to do goddess because we had the Teela tool, and it was basically just a repaint. But that doesn't clarify the whole concept of, Teela red hair, Teela blonde, Teela snake armor, what's up with that? So in that original mini-comic, again, you had the goddess character appear first, and then you had Teela show up a few pages later. So here's the original Teela action figure, noting the removable snake armor, right? So why was the snake armor removable? It's best to think of the snake armor as a second head, not just armor. Because if you think of it that way, it'll be easier to understand what the concept was. So with that sort of, slight shift in thinking, that you don't think of that armor as armor, but you think of it as an alternate head that could be placed on Teela, but would also sort of drape her in armor. That was the difference between Teela the warrior and Teela the goddess. Now, eventually, she was just called Teela on packaging. But one thing that survived was in her tag name was Warrior Goddess, because originally she was meant to represent two different characters, exactly like this Marvel Legends Nick Fury figure, who came with three different heads. You could do a generic agent, you could do a masked agent, or you could do Nick Fury. Switching the heads, they all used the same body, but the different heads made them different characters, right? We're all familiar with that concept. So here we have the Nick Fury body with the masked trooper heads, like to make a generic trooper. Or, maybe it's Nick Fury under there. Who knows? I haven't actually, asked him or looked myself. But the point is, new head, same body. Same thing with the unmasked head. Not Nick Fury, but uses the same sort of shield agent body. And you can now create multiple characters in one purchase simply by switching the heads. Well, that's exactly what they were doing with Teela. The idea was, with the snake armor, she was the goddess. Without the snake armor, she was Teela. And this was further sort of confirmed, or not confirmed, but almost confused with the Tale of Teela mini-comic, which tried to at least explain all of this and show that they were two different characters. So simply, the plot of this is that Skeletor essentially clones the sorceress. Hey, see? Cloning! It's part of Motu. You wonder why cloning showed up with the sword. It's because of stuff like this. And so the idea was he captured the sorceress / goddess and cloned her so that he could take that baby and raise that baby to be his wife? That's kind of icky. Okay, but that aside, when you put the snake armor on this figure's body, it was supposed to represent a different character. It was supposed to represent the sorceress, or originally the goddess. When you took the snake armor off, it represented Teela. Two completely different characters. Now, this is before, obviously, the sorceress got feathers and that whole thing. That came way later with Filmation, and I think that was partially to end confusion. So you see here at the end of the comic, they actually combined into the same character, and then magically they uncombine because, comics are comic books. And at the end of the day, it's definitely clear that they are two different characters. One character with snake armor, sorceress goddess. One character without, Teela. Same body, two different heads, and to further differentiate, Teela would have red hair, and the goddess was the one who was supposed to have the red hair. But, of course, eventually it just became Teela with the red hair, and the snake armor became feather armor to further differentiate them. But back at the beginning, in order to save money and have a twofer, have two female characters in one purchase, because they also knew boys would purchase fewer females, they made this character was supposed to represent two completely different characters. And that's it. That's basically the story of Teela and why she sometimes has blonde hair and why she sometimes wears snake armor. And, honestly, you can have her be whatever you want. To me, she's just one of, the hottest sci-fi, barbarian, fantasy chicks of the 80s with, some other girls included in that pool of characters. All right, enough of that. I hope you liked this video. I hope it clarified why Teela came with the snake armor and what the original intent was, even if that evolved over the years. If you like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. That tells YouTube to share it with other people, and I most appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.